to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from pristineauction.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, it's cold outside. Welcome in. The Fantasy Footballers back for Thursday, February 21st. It's cold in Arizona. Mike, you look very bundled up over there. You've got the beanies, a hoodie. You look like
just a look. Just a look. I'm actually scorching hot.
You want to hear something funny?
Got to do it for the fashion.
We had a freeze warning last night in Arizona. It actually got below freezing.
Did you towel up your bushes and your pipes?
No, but my neighbor did.
What an idiot!
But here's what
All
happened.
my plants died.
All my plants are dead. I would never cover them though. My son, we wake up this morning. It's like 32 degrees outside. They're all freaking out about it being cold, right? Arizona cold. And I kid you not, my 10-year-old at 32 degrees, without us knowing, he grabbed a glass of water. He opened the door and he ran outside.
Oh no!
And he threw a glass of water in the air because he thought it might freeze.
Wow.
Did it splash all over him?
Yes, it splashed all over the ground like a cup of water.
No, wait, what I'm saying, it didn't get him?
He didn't throw it straight up in the air. So yeah, proud moment for my son. No, it's not negative 50 here, Caleb. Goodness.
Oh! Get bodied!
Welcome in. We have one of my favorite shows of the offseason today. It is the 10 Things to Remember from 2018 show. This is an ensemble of things we want you to keep in mind that took place over the course of last year. Some of it is reflection on what happened. Some of it is remembering early parts of the season. And all the while, we're going to count them down, and Jason's in a suit with a fedora.
Yeah. Look, if you're watching this later.
It took me a second to remember again what just happened.
If you're watching later in the offseason and you're like, why?
Man.
Why is he in a fedora and a suit? Well, for some stupid reason, I'm in a stupid fedora with my stupid face because there was a petition.
A petition. They call
that
it
was
a petition.
signed by like 500 of you jerks that I have to wear this.
There is at least...
look, if I'm going to wear it, I gotta lean in, bring the suit.
Jason has at least 5 packs of flash paper hidden on his magician body.
Oh, there
right
are.
Now.
If you pull out a deck of cards right now...
Yeah, I'm going to do some up
Can you
close
do
and
some
personal
magic? Can you tell
for
me
sure.
where Le'Veon Bell's going? Is that part of the...
I'll tell you what will be magical. Our advice. Because here's the thing. You said this, Andy.
Please
you said
get that sound clip for next year, Brooks.
You look forward to the show. I've been looking forward to this show for a long time. We genuinely, I have a black book that I keep these notes in through the year.
With all of your
right.
impending magic tricks.
Right, of course. But, these are lessons that were learned both
my French fries disappear.
I am an excellent magician.
Get bodied.
But it's one of those things where some of it happens through research, some of it happens through experience, some are years in the making. But I always feel like we get better as fantasy players with this show. Not only, listening and doing the show, but actually researching for this show. I have become better, which is hard to believe.
No, I agree. A few of these, it's not just wag the finger like, oh, we tried to warn you about this. This is us reflecting on mistakes that we've
educating
possibly made
ourselves.
as well.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, quick question of the day, by the way. Find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We appreciate all of your Apple Podcast reviews. You can find us ad-free on Stitcher Premium. You can find us on jointhefoot.com, our community. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. And obviously...
Don't forget the gram, man.
Yeah, you got Instagram.com/fantasyfootballers. And on YouTube, if you want to check out some sweet street magic, Jason has
Do
got
you see this French fry?
Oh, my goodness. All right, hey.
Not anymore.
Our quick question today.
The Wishing Well.
We're tossing a coin.
I'm wishing
Very nice. We're tossing a coin into the wishing well. What do you most want to see happen in free agency? So you have carte blanche to basically say what's the best thing, what's the most intriguing thing, what's the most exciting thing you'd like to see happen in free agency, because we have a free agent preview and predictions show on Tuesday's episode.
How do you not save the suit for that, Jay?
Look, the suit goes with the hat, and the hat will be in a dumpster.
Hat's back?
No, the hat is gone.
What's those What are those hats that is it the dealers wear, the green?
What,
green
like
cap?
the accountant green
That's
visor?
what I was thinking. I was thinking that's for the free agent signings.
That's when you're in the shady business establishment playing poker.
So
And there's just cigar smoke everywhere.
Yeah, before you answer this question, we came up with the fact that we need hat bets as well.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the fedora will not be going in the garbage.
We'll
It will
collect
be-
a few hats. So a top hat, maybe one of the what does Bruce Arians wear? What is that
He
called?
wears the Kangol.
The Kangol. You get a cowboy hat.
Maybe a nice bowler.
We'll get a bowler.
Ooh.
Get a real wide brim that's awkward to do the show in.
Yeah, like one of those big landscaping hats.
Yeah.
I've got one.
I'll bet.
So
I wear it in
we'll
the
make some
pool.
bets. We'll make some hat bets, and the other person can tell you what you have to wear, because of course we will. All right, what do you want to see happen in free agency, Mike?
Well, yours is the best. Yours is by far the juiciest, because if it happened, it would be the fantasy football
That's good
world
teasing, Mike. That's good teasing.
would explode with a nuclear device. But I went with a lower key one, and that is
This
John.
is something you actually want to see
Yes.
happen. That could happen.
I want to see John Brown end up on the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to see John Brown get a shot. I think he was able to prove that he is through his health issues, and that was the only problem. The only reason why John Brown is not an Arizona Cardinal right now is because he struggled for multiple seasons with his health problems, and you couldn't commit money to him.
Yeah, sickle cell.
Yes,
Dealing with the injuries that come as a byproduct of that.
exactly. And then I thought he played himself into a fine contract, and the Eagles need wide receiver help. I don't expect Mike Wallace back. Nelson Aguilar, if they want to keep him, he's $9.3 million, and the Eagles are in a situation. They got to fix their cap. I don't know if they can give Nelson Aguilar.
He'd be $9.3 million.
Yeah, because
So then they'd have to make a decision to extend him and change the way the.
Exactly. Or he's a $0 dead cap cut. It's like Devontae Parker, where the Miami Dolphins are rumored to cut Parker. Parker and Aguilar both have the exact same fifth-year option right now, where you can cut him for no money. And John Brown would succeed with Carson Wentz. I think he would be a fantastic fit for that
John
team.
Brown is great, and really where he should go is obviously the Steelers to be the clear-cut Antonio Brown replacement.
Wow. Wow.
My wishing well is, of course, I mean,
It's round.
it's round. I got to stick with my spirit animal, my Patronus, C.J. Anderson. And where's he going to go that would make me happy? Well, Andy and I have a bet about Mark Ingram.
This one's just selfish. Mine was, I think I'm trying to help the Eagles. I'm trying to help fantasy players.
This one's about number one, this guy right here, me. I've got a bet with Andy about Mark Ingram. I think Mark Ingram returns to the Saints. He thinks he leaves. It looks more and more like if someone will pay for Mark Ingram, it does not seem like the Saints are going to. So if I lose that bet, give me C.J. Anderson, who's on my Dynasty team, to the New Orleans Saints to replace Mark Ingram as that. I mean, C.J. Anderson could catch the ball like Mark Ingram can, could be a bruiser like Mark Ingram can, is a little bit younger than Mark Ingram, much heavier set than Mark Ingram.
Anderson is younger than Ingram? That seems wild.
That does seem wild, but it has to be a fact because I said it. And
it was just his birthday, Jason. How dare you not celebrate Anderson's birthday?
Let me
I
give
did.
you perspective. C.J. Anderson is just 28 years old.
yeah.
Also the same age as Eddie Lacy.
Oh, Eddie.
What could have been?
So it's sometimes a running back and a wide receiver. Look at Demaryius Thomas and some of these other guys. It's not just the age, it's the wear and tear. But, yeah, I mean, C.J. showed some juice last year. So you want him to replace Ingram? You'll feel like that's a win when you lose that bet?
Yeah, and my Dynasty team would be thrilled. My championship back-to-back Dynasty team would be thrilled.
I'm taking the very high-end fantasy glory, impossible, but what if pick.
Oh,
here.
I love this.
And this is Le'Veon Bell to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, let it happen. Let it happen.
They were weren't they just about one Lev Bell away from a Super Bowl title last year? Wouldn't you say, Brooks?
Yes.
Weren't they just a Lev Bell away?
Yes.
I mean, they almost got there with Damian Williams.
And I would dance a beautiful dance on the fantasy grave of Damian Williams if Lev Bell were to go to Kansas City.
Now, Lev Bell, at his current asking price, would only cost the Chiefs about 2 to 2.5 times more per yard than any other running back in football. That's
a good investment.
They also need to find an extension for Tyreek Hill. They've got to find an extension for Chris Jones. This is a near impossibility. But what if? I mean, the question was, what do you most want to see happen? I want to see what Patrick Mahomes does with Sammy Watkins, Le'Veon Bell, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce.
I think you saw it. It was what he did with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
And then what he did
right.
with Damian Williams. But that's full man from La Mancha. That is an impossible dream.
Now, the reason why this even comes up is on the basis of whenever any team has a quarterback on a rookie contract, they have the opportunity to exploit the cap at other positions. But they do have talented players that need extensions. It's not likely to happen. Lev Bell to Kansas.
Mahomes is already going into year 3.
Let's take a step back and just say, how about Lev Bell to a good team? That's what I'd most like to see happen in free agency.
Not bloody likely.
Lev Bell to Indianapolis.
Nope, that
Lev
ain't happening.
Bell to Kansas City. Lev Bell to somebody that is above 500.
I think the
happen.
only good team is, if you're talking last year, the only good team would be Houston.
What about Baltimore?
I don't think they'll.
They
I
won't.
don't think they'll pay him.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be the biggest knife twist in the
would.
division?
But the teams with the cap money that want to make the run and need the big name are probably teams like the Jets and the Raiders, which
He'll
Yeah.
get volume.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
News and notes from around the league, presented by Sleeper.
Oh, my goodness. By the way, I failed to mention at the top of the show, there's about a week left to get the you can get the Ultimate Draft Kit all the way through the offseason.
The pre-order.
But the pre-order with the bonuses ends on March 1st.
Bonus.
And you get, if you pre-order it at ultimatedraftkit.com, not only do you get the world's greatest draft kit in existence, but you get a couple of bonuses before March 1st. You get a $10 gift card to shopballers.com, free and clear. You get $10 to fantasychamps.com, free and clear. You get, obviously, you get early access once the rookie stuff comes out, but
none of that is worth anything by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, you get you'll be entered to win a listener league spot.
Yes.
And that'll be anybody that pre-orders before March 1st. You'll be entered to win a listener league spot. You'll also be entered to win a couple of fantasy football jerseys. So we're pulling out all the stops before March 1st. Get in there, pre-order, ultimatedraftkit.com. All right, news-wise, Jason.
Yes.
Big news.
Huge news.
Charles Clay, former Bills superstar, tight end.
Former is correct.
1 year, $3.25 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals.
Not
necessary or very necessary?
Not necessary at all. Look, Charles Clay, a lot of people, they look back. I saw the report saying, hey, 6 of his last 8 seasons, he's been one of the top-rated tight ends according to Pro Football Focus. And that's a fact, but which 6 of the last 8? Because when you get to a certain age and you get to a certain number of injuries, and then you look up, well, he wasn't great and highly rated this past year.
Because he was hurt this year.
Well, that's part of the problem. He has 82-year-old knees. Now, why I think they're bringing Charles Clay in, where he did actually succeed and was highly rated, was as a pass blocker, not in nowhere else. But he can still pass block, and the Arizona Cardinals need that. Maybe they can utilize him in the line as in a pass blocking role to open up maybe Ricky Seals-Jones.
Well, he is a capable pass catcher if the needs arise. The thing that is interesting about him is before last year, which was obviously injury marred, all the problems at quarterback, everything else. The previous 5 years, he had 69, 58, 51, 57, 49 receptions. The Cardinals have never had a tight end in their franchise history with more than 40 receptions.
So I think you're forgetting why he was Mr. Necessary.
And he's only 30 years old. That's what I want to bring up to.
He was Mr. Necessary on the Buffalo Bills because they had no one to catch the ball.
And the Cardinals? They're not much different.
Look, I mean, we got Larry Fitzgerald, of course, in the possible ascension of Christian Kirk. But after that, Charles Clay, okay. Like if Charles Clay is the third best pass catching option as of right now, are you shocked about that, Jason?
Yes, I would be shocked because Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, David Johnson are the
I
top
forgot
three
DJ. My bad.
pass catching
This
options.
is way too much Charles Clay talk. All right, moving on. The Buccaneers have signed running back Andre Ellington.
I remember him. He
has familiarity with Bruce Arians from Arizona.
Yes.
It was interesting. I considered picking him up in our Dynasty League. I still did not do it.
Okay.
I mean, if you're in a deeper league, look for him out there on the waivers. It might be worth it. He's no guarantee to make the roster.
The Steelers will not use any of their tags. No transition tag on Lev Bell. Lev Bell is going to be a free agent, free to sign a contract of his choosing.
He absolutely is. So we'll get to find out. Is Le'Veon Bell, can he actually get the money that he thinks he's going to get?
And then more Steelers news. Antonio Brown did meet with Steelers owner Art Rooney. This news came out a couple days ago, and he's going to be moving on. These teams are going to find, at least that's what's being put out there, is they've decided, look, a trade's in the best interest of both the team and the player. The Antonio Brown sweepstakes begins. What new quotes come out on Twitter from Antonio Brown?
Mr. Big Chest.
Who will know? Yeah, are we supposed to call him?
Mr. Big Chest.
No.
I will respect his wishes.
I will not respect.
Who do you think you are? How dare you?
If Antonio Brown comes out and says, I want you to call me Mr. Big Chest, I do not have to do that.
What if
you don't?
What if he said, I'll
fun.
shave my blonde mustache if I do that?
Mr. Big Chest is here.
How do you not lean into Mr. Big Chest?
Because there's certain
It
insanity.
hits close to home.
There's certain Mr. Big Belly is what I'd like to be known as from now on.
Hey, sports fans, as we close out the News and Notes show, if you hate your fantasy app, I got a solution for you. Download the best free fantasy app on iOS and Android. Get the Sleeper app today. Guys, it is time for the main event. You ready?
Yes.
Don't forget to remember these things.
Right on point.
Yes. Literal. Very literal. We've got 10 things for you to remember from 2018. It's as simple as that. We've done this for the past, 2 years, Brooks? This is our third year doing it?
Yes, sir.
30 things to remember.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are probably variations of things in the past. But look, we took a fresh look at 2018, and I'm going to start here with
Number 10.
Yeah. Remember the numbers,
You know what
Brooks.
you're doing?
Remember the numbers. Hey, I'm going with the end is the beginning is the end. I actually don't really know what that means as it relates to my point, but I did remember the song from the original Batman. I believe it was Batman and Robin.
Yes.
What's the Val Kilmer one?
I think you've referenced this before.
Yeah, it's Smashing Pumpkins song.
Let's just explain yourself.
All right, listen. Here's what I'm talking about. Don't overreact to the beginning of the season. Through 2 weeks, Deshaun Jackson, Kirk Cousins, Blake Bortles, and Andy Dalton were all in the upper echelon
Blake Bortles was?
of fantasy football performances.
I don't remember this.
Here's who was outside the top 200 in 2018. After 2 weeks, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, Lamar Miller, David Johnson.
Did you mean 100 or 200?
100.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said 200, but
I did?
yes, but it was 2 weeks, so
Yeah, if you took 100 and then you added another week, that's 200. No, outside the
200.
top 100. Look, remember how Kareem Hunt started the season?
Yes.
David Johnson, who I know, disappointed fantasy owners, number 3 running back off the board, finished at number 10. Finished at number 10, not outside the top 100 after 2 weeks. A constant reminder that we need to give fantasy owners is you've got to breathe. And what happens is you've got this long offseason that begins even now. If you're listening to the show, you are primed. You're ready. You got your suit on. You got your fedora.
Jason does.
Tip low. You're ready to draft. You got your team. You're ready to rumble. And then something goes sideways, and you freak out. So you can name this whatever you want. Maybe a better name would be, hey, don't go shopping after week 1. Or maybe don't shop after week 1. Look, there are some things that happen, matchups, players figuring things out, rotations. Give yourself a couple of weeks. Kirk Cousins, it didn't really pan out over the course of the year. Mike, I mean, it didn't cost you through the whole season, but there were times that I'm sure you started Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Because of the first 2 weeks of the year.
Yep.
Later on where you said, hey, I'm going to get some more of that. Well, that wasn't the whole template for Kirk Cousins. So that's my reminder. Don't necessarily go shopping. Take a breath after week 1, week 2.
Yeah, week 1 especially. That it ruins some fantasy people. I completely agree with that.
Number 9.
Number 9. This is my number 1 personal thing to remember because this hits home for me. It was something. It was top of all of my pages of I cannot forget this. I'm buying in. I've kind of had this. I've had this logic for years that I have just simply never obeyed. I'm just, you know, you know the
Your
rule.
diet.
You know what's right, exactly. Diet.
Man,
Mike
I'm being mean to you.
No,
I'm
I love
sorry.
you. You know, it's one of those things where you know not to do it, or you know it could backfire, but you just don't obey because you think you're gonna.
It's juicy. It's tantalizing.
You think you're gonna get it. And my tip here is stop buying the injury dip. And now what I'm talking about here is the best example last year, early in the season, I bought into the injury dip in the value of Doug Baldwin. He was missing some of camp. He was missing some of preseason. He was sliding down into the 3rd round, and I scooped him up everywhere because I was getting a value on him because people were afraid because of the injury. And that was a mistake because guess what? He was injured. He was hurt. He was struggling with this, and it showed up when he got into games, and it kept him out of games. And I want to make so it's don't buy the injury dip. When a guy is injured,
especially a hamstring.
But that's where I wanted to go. This is the amendment, part B, part deux to this is
Part deux.
Watch out for hamstring injuries. I started doing a lot of research for this show. Looking back, there was it's a little older now, but a massive study done in 2011 on professional football players and hamstrings. It's incredible because something like almost half of the hamstring injuries that happen in the preseason training camp time. Like, early draft season, people are dealing with hamstring issues. And it's so common, and we saw it this year, we see it every year. But hamstrings are one that I will be avoiding. I will be completely avoiding next year. It's not that people who have hamstring problems can't come back and perform later on. I mean, Dalvin Cook, right? At the end of the season, he was great. Maybe I'll look for him next year unless he's dealing with a hamstring issue. But when you grabbed a player who was currently dealing with the hamstring issue, first of all, you have more than a 16% chance at re-injuring the hamstring. So if you grab a guy with a hamstring issue, or you want to trade for a guy, or you want to hold on to a guy that's dealing with a hamstring, what's going to happen is you're going to miss time, so he's going to score nothing for you. Then he's going to come back finally. You've waited. So because you've waited, you're going to put him in your lineup, and there's almost a 20% chance, a 1 in 5 chance, that he's going to get a re-injury. Now, if that happens, first of all, it's not just he misses more games. It's you probably started him. He probably ruined the game that he was in your lineup for. He's taken up a roster spot that whole time. Hamstrings are 2019. I will not deal with hamstring problems. And if one of my player has an early season hamstring issue, I will probably look to move them. I mean, I'm not going to get full value.
You don't want to mess with the hamstrings
anymore. But I just don't want to mess with it.
Okay.
There you go.
Number 8.
Number 8 for me is the perceived wide receiver 3, and by that I mean on a team. The perceived wide receiver 3, ignoring the fact that players get better and they can become the 2 on their team. Because once training camp happens, we're all putting our labels on what is this guy on the team? Where is he in the pecking order? Even if I really like this player's talent, like, there's roadblocks for this player. But this year in particular, there were quite a few guys where I had little shares of them coming out of the draft, even though I loved all of these players. I mean, highlighted by the smooth one himself, Kenny Golladay. But he was the wide receiver 3 on his team coming into the season. Tyler Boyd was buried, at least in fantasy football terms. He was buried behind A.J. Green and first-round pick John Ross. You had in Tyler Boyd was the wide receiver 118 in drafts. Like, Tyler Boyd was not being drafted. Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, and to be fair for Mike Williams, a lot of people had him as the 2, but to me, he was still behind Tyrell Williams, just on the depth chart, the guy who had already been there. And when you believe in the talent of these players who are at the end of drafts, I'm not going to be wasting my time taking the guy who, I think he's the 2, but he's on a crappy team. I'm going to be investing my draft capital in guys who maybe they are 3s, but I believe in that player, and they can be on good teams as well. Last year, 12 wide receivers drafted outside of the top 40 wide receivers had stretches of at least 4 games where they were a wide receiver 1. You have to – it's really hard because it feels counterintuitive to draft these players, especially a wide receiver who feels like it's just such a tough task for them to rise up and become relevant. But they can. It happens all the time. And so this is what I'm reminding myself of. I loved Golladay, but I didn't draft him because I didn't see the path, anything that remotely resembled a clear path.
So you're saying later in your draft,
yes,
trust the talent even if they look a little bit more buried.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because that'll feed into mine a little bit.
Number 7.
Which is basically the fact that you're absolutely right. Later in drafts, those wide receivers that do break through, like Tyler Boyd or even like Tyreek Hill a couple years ago, or even Tyreek Hill this past year where he wasn't drafted to be an upper echelon guy, if you look at who was on playoff teams, okay?
Right.
And this is what I want to bring up, and this is more talking about running backs. But if you look at the players that were on the highest percentage of playoff teams, 6 of the 8 most common players were running backs, okay? They were running backs. That's the power of McCaffrey and Gurley and Barkley and Phillip Lindsay. The other 2 were players like Tyler Boyd and Tyreek Hill, which were value wide receivers. Hill was a value for where you drafted him.
He was.
And Tyler Boyd was a value for where you drafted him. But here's what I want to get into about the running backs and about basically breaking down the value of the running back and what's happened the past couple of years and how when a running back like you, Jason, with Devonta Freeman and with Dalvin Cook, running back pain, it burns. It burns deep, and it burned deeper in particular in 2018. I took a look over the last 2 years at the top 30 drafted running backs and top 30 drafted wide receivers, okay? How many of those guys finished in their top 30 at the position? Simple thing. 2 years ago, it was 10 and 10 that finished outside of it, okay? So you've got a 33% of both positions finished outside of the top 30 if you drafted them in the top 30. There wasn't any particular running backs hurt you, wide receivers hurt you. Well, last year in 2018, only 30% of the receivers drafted in that range finished outside the top 30. Only 9 of them. So out of the top 30 ADP,
so very similar.
21 finished inside. So you got a lot of what you deem consistency from that position. And this includes injury variables. At the running back position, 15 of the 30 finished outside the top 30. So half of the players that you drafted were burns to you as in drafting a running back. And then there were guys that didn't finish outside, like David Johnson, who doesn't even qualify for that group, but felt like a burn, felt like somebody that hurt you. And you had major injuries, right? Jerick McKinnon at the time, Lev Bell. You know, it's crazy. 2 years in a row, one of the top 2 running backs burnt somebody. People took Lev Bell this past year. He never showed up. David Johnson last year went number 1 on most drafts, injured in the first game of the year and burned you. So the way it feels right now is that running backs burned you more than wide receivers did. But the reality of the teams that made the playoffs and succeeded 6 of the 8 players that were most common on fantasy rosters were running backs. So, yes, the risk was higher, but you saw 2 years ago it wasn't higher. So the overreaction risk right now is to go out and say, hey, I'm afraid of the running back. I got burned really deeply. We see that right now in your ADP with Dalvin Cook, with Devonta Freeman. These players that are going in the 3rd and 4th round are late. You know, that is a reaction to the pain you felt. So what I'm saying is, look, ignore the deep running back burns. This is a 1-year outlier at the position for them to hurt you more than the wide receivers do. And ride those running back horses like we always say to. Get them early. They're going to carry you to a title. So that's my reminder for 2018.
Number 6.
You know who's not going to carry you to a title from your draft?
Who's that?
Rookie wide receivers.
Oh!
That's what I'm saying. That's what I believe. That's
what
what I
I'm
believe
saying.
the data backs up.
Talk to me, Jay. Break it down.
Late in drafts, you always want the tantalizing opportunity, the huge upside of the unknown in the star rookie, and you want to find that
Odell
guy.
Beckham.
You want Odell Beckham. Now, in the last 12 years, the number 1 rookie wide receiver was Odell Beckham. He did it in 12 games. When you got that guy, and granted, he was injured the first 4 weeks. Odell Beckham was more of a waiver wire pickup that year in 2014, but he was awesome. And that year of 2014 skewed us so heavily. In fact, 3 of the top 10 rookie wide receiver performances in the last 12 years were all from 2014. And one of them was Kelvin Benjamin. Just a good example of right place, right time, getting lucky. But in general, you don't perform well as a rookie wide receiver out of the gate. And that's what you need in draft season. In the draft season, you need a guy that's going to come out week 1, week 2, and be awesome. If you look DJ Moore, Dante Pettis, even James Washington, Michael Gallup, these guys were helping you at the end of the year. They stepped up. They looked good. I'm going to look to them this year. But if you drafted them, that did not help you in the slightest. It hurt you. You didn't perform well. The only guy that got off to a strong start was Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley did not help anybody. He wasn't in the 3-touchdown game. And if you look at how he actually performed, so Calvin Ridley, in the last 12 years, he was a top 10 fantasy rookie wide receiver. That's like fantastic. I got a top 10. Was anybody happy with Calvin Ridley this year? He was our consistency rating wide receiver 39. He was negative scores on his great rate, his good rate, and his bust rate, like really negative on all 3. He wasn't someone that actually helped people in fantasy football, and that was a top 10 performance.
This is I mean, it's a great point, and it's why I hate it when you get to the very end of your draft and you use your last pick on a rookie wide receiver like that.
Yeah, I'm taking a 3.
That's the worst thing you can do, because even if you do that, like they're the sexy name. Oh my gosh, I got DJ Moore with my last pick.
Yeah.
But the problem is even if DJ Moore's great, it happens like after you've released him for 5 weeks, right?
Right,
You hold him for 2 weeks and go, oh man. I mean, you didn't even put Traquan Smith in your list here. He's another guy that was like, even if you had him, you probably
Marquez
didn't play him on
Scantling
didn't
or
play him on the right game.
Equanimous St. Brown was actually drafted higher. I mean, these wide receivers don't happen, and we have so much data, right? I mean, there's so many rookie wide receivers drafted every single year, both in the NFL and in fantasy, and in general, they don't work out. And here's the thing. If you look at, so Calvin Ridley, he stunk, and he was a top 10.
Stink.
Four of the guys ahead of him, so 4 of those 9 were top 12 NFL draft picks. Guys that A.J. Green, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham. Look, when they were taken in the NFL, you knew there was something really, truly special and different. That doesn't appear to be the case in 2019. There's not like a clear-cut guy I expect to be this top 5, top 6 NFL draft pick in this year's draft. So I think I am avoiding all rookie wide receivers. You can have them. I'm going to go with the talented players I liked from a few years ago who haven't broken out yet, who are coming into their 3rd or 2nd year in the NFL, and they might be looking like they're the wide receiver 3 on their team, similar to Mike. I'm going to draft those guys over the rookies in this year's draft at wide receiver.
The stats just back it up, and last year is a perfect case study for that, and that's a good thing to remember from 2018.
Number 5.
Number 5 for me is just a fact of life. that not everyone thinks the same way that you do. I don't know if
they should.
I don't know if you've ever experienced this.
Really?
But this year, in particular, this year felt really strong.
Yeah, remember Mike's takes on lemon desserts, Jason?
Oh, they're just
the
worst.
best. Thank you, Mr. Suit. But I want to talk about rational coaching, or just me believing what is the clear and right thing to do for these NFL head coaches. And
Mike has the hardest time of anybody I've ever known at dealing with curmudgeon coaches in the NFL.
You are not incorrect. Case in point, Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny was a first-round draft pick in the NFL draft. A first-round pick is among the most valuable things in the NFL. We're talking like Antonio Brown, generational. Well, he might end up as a top 5 wide receiver of all time. I will be shocked if the Pittsburgh Steelers get a first-round pick for Antonio Brown, because teams guard them. It is their precious, the first-round pick.
Yes.
And Rashad Penny was the pick of the Seattle Seahawks for a team that had glaring holes everywhere. And they went with a running back, what a lot of people call a luxury pick. And you think, okay, this guy is set up for incredible success? No, not even in the slightest. Up in Detroit, they traded up for Kerryon Johnson, who's going to be great this year. But you trade up in the second round for a running back. Meanwhile, here comes LeGarrette Blount killing drives. I mean, this wasn't just he was a second-round pick. This was the guy who was on the field was an inferior talent. We all see it, but somehow the coach does not see it. Tampa Bay spent a second-round pick on Ronald Jones. The guy couldn't even get on the field. So I still believe in the power of draft capital, but I am allowing for a little more leeway that some coaches do things that are highly irrational with their players.
Is there going to be a component when we do our coaching changes overview where you can factor in some trust or lack of trust in the changes that have taken place based on that type of a thing?
Absolutely. Like, I'm trying to be open that Pete Carroll is a butt face.
Oh no. Here's the thing that
we got a B face and a B hole now.
No,
we love coaches.
Let's not. Here's the thing that's troubling. Though,
I like
Mike.
Pete Carroll.
And here's why I think you're going to not be able to, I don't know,
avoid it.
Is Seattle was good,
right?
They were. He may be irrational for fantasy owners, but he was very rational. And Schottenheimer and Carroll,
it ended up
it worked out for them. Now Detroit, Tampa, not so much, but
Miami.
But there are going to be teams that, we are removed from two things. We are removed from a coach's history in the NFL. So the things that they've done through 20 years of their life that they think work and don't work. So they're biases in that regard. And we're removed from the interpersonal relationships that they have with players. We see all the time. Look at Bruce Arians just brought in Andre Ellington.
Right.
Probably the only coach in football that would do that. Might be the only coach that would give him reps. In the NFL, all because of an interpersonal relationship. So I don't know what Matt Patricia and LeGarrette Blount, if they love hanging out. Those are the things we're not privy to, and that's what
They're
you see.
very into the X-Men movies.
Yes, you see the irrationality behind that coaching, and I do too. It's unfortunate, makes you want to cry, and maybe it does need to be factored in to your actual draft selection.
You have to allow space for that to happen.
And I think the only time you can recognize that, you just have to get better at recognizing it early. Like we figured out that Chris Carson was going to be the guy, but it was too late. We didn't believe it at the beginning. And when something seems like it should go the other way and a coach is saying, no, I'm going to go this way, you just got to believe the coach, even if you disagree with the call.
To be clear, I did.
That is true.
So you could always just listen to me and just ignore Mike. That's another option. Oh, that'd be a 10 thing to remember.
I think you would have put
Number
Caleb
4
on the field too often.
Number 4, a little shout out to the Dynasty players out there. This one, this was a reflection of Brooks. I agree with it, and I'm bringing it in the top 10.
Brooks is the master.
Things to remember. Yeah, because this is his forte, right?
Yes.
He's got a PhD.
It is not just his forte. It is his birthday.
Whoa!
My goodness.
That's why I'm wearing the suit. It's for
How
your
old is
birthday, Brooks.
Giamatti today? Let me take a little
Yeah,
look.
let's look that up.
Is he? Did you take a look?
No, I'm just guessing.
He didn't look 53 in Spider-Man.
Look,
with that face tattoo.
This is something we have to share
51.
while you look. Wow, what a guess by me. I just threw out the number.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Look, I did not see the second Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. It was the
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Sure, it's the one that has Jamie Foxx as Electro. I didn't see it. I didn't know anybody who saw it. And then Jason comes in, just a look on his face like he found a treasure map and he knows exactly where the lost city of Atlantis is. I mean, he is.
This is 2 days ago.
He is excited. And he says, guys, have you seen the second Spider-Man? Of course, we say no, because no one has seen it. For some reason, Jason
I don't know why I watched
it.
this a couple days ago with my son.
It was bad?
But Paul Giamatti is in the beginning of that movie in a role that is insane and
like a
terrible.
Skinhead face tattooed
Yes. I mean,
psycho.
he is an absolute psychopath.
And that's
this
you,
is-
Brooks.
And that's you, birthday boy.
It's a role going like, what is esteemed actor Paul Giamatti doing in Spider-Man 2 as this guy? Check it out. It's very fun.
All right, number 4 on this list. A shout out to Dynasty owners. This is called the Dynasty Depth Chart Deep Dive at the running back position. Because this is what Brooks does well. He adds the 3rd and 4th string running backs if you have a Dynasty league with monster-sized benches. Because you have to think to yourself, hey, if this player gets hurt, who becomes the potential handcuff? And you might say to yourself, well, does that really work out? This makes no sense. Why add those guys? Well, here's the benefits that Brooks has received over the years. Here's just 2018 players that have emerged at some time to deliver some value.
Brooks is the best at this, but he didn't get the best guy. Sorry, Brooks.
All right. Damian Williams.
That's the one he didn't get.
Yeah. Damian Williams was an RB3. It was the RB3 from weeks 14 through 17. Justin Jackson started in week 15 on a high-powered offense. Jalen Samuels came out of nowhere, started 3 games late in the season. Gus Edwards. Who was Gus Edwards? Well, he was no one. And then he was the RB16 for 7 weeks. Josh Adams started 5 games. Jeff Wilson Jr. Jeff Wilson Jr. Nobody knew that name. But if you could have had the
Jeff Wilson Sr. certainly did.
Certainly. Yeah, that he knew it well. And if you had the foresight to add them early on, then you were in great shape. So as a Dynasty League owner, sometimes it doesn't look like those names are worth adding to the roster.
Well,
but if you're going to add them, look what's happened over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about in redraft leagues and keeper leagues, normal, smaller sized rosters. We talk about how difficult it is to handcuff because you think you've got the right guy, but then it turns out when the starter goes down, we were wrong. It wasn't Spencer Ware, or it wasn't, whoever you thought it was going to be.
Eckler
All of a
in
sudden,
full time.
It was C.J. Anderson. He steps up. You didn't think he was going to be the guy, but in Dynasty, where you got such deep, ability to go after those 3rd string running backs, when they hit, it changes everything because usually you've got a deeper starting roster as well. You need 2 flexes. You need to go deeper. So I love that tip.
I'll jump in real quick just to add on to that. It's kind of more of a tip, but if you're in a startup dynasty, grab other people's handcuffs late in the draft if they haven't. High-powered handcuffs.
Yeah, I like it.
I grabbed James Conner in a startup dynasty last year, really late.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I can tell you this. In a Dynasty League, when someone else has your handcuff, you are biting your nails, you are holding your breath, and it stinks. It's the worst because in a Dynasty League, you're building that team at a core position, and if you lose that guy and someone else benefits to the degree that a Jalen Samuels owners benefited this year, that sucks. And if you want to make it suck for your friends, that's what you can do.
Number 3.
Number 3, this is one for me. I want to remember those who were I want to remember those who were better than their end-of-season rankings. And we're in this weird in-between time right now where when I say some of these things, we'll remember them now. But I promise you, as you go through the offseason, you get closer to the draft, everyone starts looking and thinking and remembering full season stats. Where did a guy finish? How did they do? And you can't remember the nuance of how they got there. So there's specific players that so clearly outproduced what their end-of-season rankings say they were that I want to remember. I made this list of guys because I want to remember. And you can go back and listen to the Truth episodes. That'll help. You can bookmark this episode, put a little Slackbot reminder or something to yourself saying, hey, I want to come back and remember all these tips later in the year when we're getting closer to draft season. That's a lot of times when these tips will help you the most. But I want to give you examples of what I'm talking about. So Jameis Winston, quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are all in now. It looked like he might not even be their starter. They're all in. Last year, he finished as the quarterback 22, which is trash. It's garbage. It's worthless for fantasy. But from week 6 on, which is pretty much when he started, because if you remember, he was suspended the first 3 games. Then he wasn't going to be the starter, came in relief, so he kind of got half of a game. So, and this isn't even including a game where he got benched halfway through. From week 6 on, he was the quarterback 9 on a point-per-game basis. He was actually very good for fantasy. I want to remember that going into next year with Bruce Arians and not just look at, well, he finished 22nd. He wasn't that good. Josh Allen, right, finished 21st. But in the last 5 weeks of the season, once he got back from his stretch where he missed, and this is his rookie season, he was the number 1 quarterback. Those are things where you cannot, when we go into next year, you can't forget the stretches. You can't just look at where they finished last year. Leonard Fournette finished 40th, but he was actually 14th on a per-game basis. Now, that's still behind where he was drafted, but he's going to fall in drafts this year. He's better than where he finished. Kerryon Johnson, same thing, finished 33rd, but from weeks 3 through 10 before he got injured and after he finally got, work and wasn't just relegated completely behind LeGarrette Blount, he was the 13th running back during that time. Dalvin Cook, weeks 12 through 17, once he got over his hamstring injury, he was the RB7. You have Cooper Kupp. Obviously, he was injured with the ACL, but he was a wide receiver 1.
He was a beast.
He was 12th in per game. You had Julian Edelman, right? Because of the suspension, you don't realize that he was the wide receiver 14 in a per game basis. All those are half PPR numbers. So I want to remember those players and make sure that next season I do not just go based on end of season. And it's not just end of season versus per game, right? Because some of these you need the nuanced context of suspensions or half games missed or things like that. I want to actually realize how good a player was and take them at that value versus taking them at just where they finished if you look at 17 weeks.
Yeah, I love it.
Number 2,
you know that this is a late-round quarterback strategy show, and it was very successful for those guys streaming the position. And instead of looking at it from that angle, I want to look at it from the other angle, the argument that early quarterback drafters use. Early quarterbacks are safe.
They're super safe, Mike.
They're the safe. I mean, they're the safest position in fantasy.
I feel like the voice of public opinion should have showed up for that, but whatever.
But Andy, I don't need to show up. Everyone knows the early quarterbacks are the safest and the coolest.
Maybe they're the coolest. I don't. That's
neither here nor there.
I don't know if I can argue that point at all. Here is what happened last year. Only one quarterback of the top 10 guys off the draft board gave a positive return, and that was Andrew Luck, who was drafted as QB9 and finished at 5. Only 3 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 came close to returning value, and that's with Andrew Luck in there. And I'm including Deshaun Watson, who was the second quarterback off the board, and you had to grab him in the 4th round. He finished at QB4. And Drew Brees, QB6 off the board, he finished at QB8. But everyone else gave you a massive negative return on your draft capital. And these were guys that you stuck with, and you paid the price while everyone else was throwing Mahomes, throwing Big Ben, throwing these guys where you just
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson,
Matt Ryan.
Yes, Matt Ryan I mean, Matt Ryan, Big Ben, and Mahomes are like the three faces of you don't need to draft a quarterback early, but on top of that, just how unsafe the position.
That's a bigger argument. That's the bigger point you're making.
You need to see both sides of this story. They aren't. It's not just saying they're not 100% safe.
Because the way that the argument has been made in the past is, look, don't take one early because it's only a one start position, and even if they're guaranteed, it's not worth more than your running back. That's all true.
Yes.
But then you add in the lack of safety, and here. Mike, we were filling this show doc out, and we were each picking 3 items that were really important to us. Well, I pulled up 2 things. I pulled up end-of-season rankings, and I pulled up average draft position last year. And I wanted to try to identify some things there. First thing I noticed is I'm seeing Big Ben and Matt Ryan's name near the top of this list, and I'm going, boy, there's a lot of names at quarterback that just don't seem to correlate with the draft. I start to write up something on it. I roll up here, and you've already done the research.
Yeah.
Rodgers, first, finished 6th. Watson, drafted 2nd, finished 4th. Brady, drafted 3rd, finished 14th. The argument you just said, only one gave you a plus return. I mean, even if you're neutral, it's not a good argument.
Well, at least you gave up an early draft pick, though. So, at least you gave up one of your really good wide receivers or running backs that you could have drafted. So that's cool.
No, look, it's more ammo for the late-round quarterback philosophy, even when –
go with it.
It's crazy. I mean, look, you drafted Carson Wentz. You spent that money, finished 23rd, banged up.
Just let it wash over you, people.
We'll try our best. Whether it's cold water, we'll see. We'll break you out of it.
Number 1.
All right, what's number 1 on the list of things to remember for 2018?
You know what it is.
No.
Remember to fix your league.
Look, there's 2 things you gotta do. You gotta identify the problem. Step 2, you gotta fix it.
Fix that problem.
Look, do you have a Week 17 championship in your league? Lucky for you, this was an in particularly very strong one that you bring to your league and say, guys, gals, what the heck are we doing? Look at my team. Look at my super stud team that I did not get to play in Week 17. You still like kickers?
I mean, maybe you do, and that's fine. But if you don't, don't forget and just keep re-rolling. Like,
did you just say if you do, that's fine?
It is. Look, I hate kickers.
I put the ball on the tee.
I know.
And you came up and
I picked it up and I threw it really far because I hate kickers.
Did you know Jason, when he goes out on the golf course, he does all his driving via right arm?
Look.
We let him do that, and then everything else he can hit an iron.
What's crazy is I'm so much better with my arm. As many strokes as I add because I can't get the distance, I'm still coming in under what I would have done with that golf club.
You just look like an elephant?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, no, my point here is that I understand if people want kickers. I get the argument for I hate kickers, I want them out. But I was comparing that to like the Week 17 where get out of here with that trash stuff. But now's the time to remember. What about your waiver wire? Is it just an open waiver wire where, man, every year the guy who doesn't have a job and sits at home gets first pickings? Do you want to move to the fab system, where every day you put bids in and everybody has an equal chance to get that? Now's the time to remember to fix your league.
Move to a keeper league, change keeper rules for your league. This is the time to look into it.
And by the way, we do have an article about fab on our website. I mean, we get asked a lot, how do I convince my league mates to move to fab? People are nervous. They don't get it. We've got a great article over on the site written up by Eric Ludwig. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely check that out.
Are you playing on the platform that you love? Do you love it there? Do you want to try a different platform? Try it out.
Absolutely, and get rid of those bad people.
Yeah,
if they wear a fedora, get them out.
I was really wanting to gang up on Mike here, but now it's me. I'm out.
You're wearing a fedora and a suit.
That's true. I'm going to be commentator at the draft, not a drafter.
Mike has this habit around the office, and I really hate it.
What? No,
just hang in with me, Mike. You get credit here, all right?
Oh, okay.
Mike's got this habit of, quote-unquote, remembering things properly.
Oh,
okay?
yes.
And I have this habit of, quote-unquote, forgetting things. And
I like to call it misremembering things, but
yeah, you know what?
That's probably more accurate.
That's more accurate because what I like to do is I like to say, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure this is that is this. And normally Mike will roll up and he'll be like, yeah, but look right there. And then I'll be like, no, Mike, dang it. Because Mike's memory is impervious to anything because he protects it with that hoodie.
Yeah,
he
keep it
keeps
warm.
his brain nice and warm for memories. I don't keep my brain warm enough, apparently. So he's got this habit of just always ending up right about those type of things. And today, he rolls up, and Jason's got his suit. That's a whole nother problem. Yeah. He's got his suit and his fedora, and he says, hey, Indiana Jones wears a fedora. And I'm like, you're a crazy person.
yeah.
No, he does not. He is cool, therefore he does not.
It's cool.
Indiana Jones is the coolest. You are wrong. That is my contention. Then I go and look up a picture of Indiana Jones, and I still insist that this is not a fedora. And I tell Mike, I go, no, look at this. This is not a fedora. I've got Google Images up on my screen. He walks up, and he points at the first picture, and the name of the picture is Indiana Jones fedora. And they're all named that.
Yes.
So apparently when Indiana, you are not as cool as Indiana Jones.
Well, here's
Jason.
the thing. This is a stupid fedora that I'm wearing. It's got this stupid small
got
little bill
pinstripes, bro.
and pinstripes. I need a real fedora.
The problem with the fedora
but please do not order me one.
is the definition of fedora is it's far too wide. This hat, it got greedy of what hat shape and size it could actually be.
And people started taking liberties.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
And now where are we?
Now we're at a place where I'm wearing a stupid hat and trying to be in a ska band.
A ska. So fedoras are just too wide and too
diverse.
What?
Too diverse.
Yes.
They need to segment
Yes.
and rebrand.
If you open up Google and you type in fedora hat, right, and you let the autocomplete, you've got a couple interesting. The first one is fedora hat, how to wear. And maybe you should have looked that up.
That's funny. Mine is fedora hat Indiana Jones.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's fedora hat straw. And so maybe because you're not wearing a straw fedora.
That's the problem.
I think we're done here, Brooks. You think we're done?
Wrap it up. Yeah, Jason's got to go knock on wood.
Let's go. Let's wrap it up.
Pristine deal of the day.
Look, it doesn't get better than Pristine Auction. We got Alvin Kamara autographed jersey on the wall today. And guess what? The deal of the day, Jarvis Landry signed Cleveland Browns jersey yesterday. JSA witnessed autograph, $67.57.
That's what I'm talking about. Get in on it. Jarvis Landry about to go ham.
Yeah, you look, there's hundreds of auctions. It's free to make an account, free to bid unless you win it. So just go and sign up. Check them out every single day. You will love what you see. And make sure when you sign up that you let them know that you found out about Pristine Auction from the Fantasy Footballers podcast.
All right, that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Thanks for supporting us, and we will be back next week with a free agent preview.
Absolutely.
And no fedoras. That is our plan. Unless Jason's wife says it looks good.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.